So I bought this cat collar, but what it is that when you go like this, boom, it looks like a shirt and tie. So, when you have like take your daughter to work day or take your son to work day, you can have take your cat to work day. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, Aaron Judge has been named captain of Team America for the 2026 World Baseball Classic. We'll kind of dive into that, whereas maybe some Yankee fans that may have some trepidation of the captain playing in these games and maybe injuring himself. But I'll give my take on the whole deal with that. And plus, we'll look at the closer role. I know Devin Williams now settled in a little bit, but a lot of Yankee fans, at least early on, wanted to boot him out there and have Luke Weaver as the closer there. I'll actually argue that's not a good idea for the Yankees. You should stick with Williams as the closer there. I'll make that argument. And of course, we got some injury updates. Some guys out there, you probably wondering, what is going on with Stan? What's going on with DJ LeMahieu? So give you an update on all that stuff. And plus, let's look into the Yankee rotation, of course. Number of issues here. Of course, Clark Schmidt now rejoining the Yankees finally in this 2025 season. But of course, Stroman out on the IL. And plus, we have some other pitchers there not performing well, mainly Carlos Rodón. So we'll focus on that as well. So a lot of good stuff for you. And if there's time, and I think there will be time, we're going to look at the Juan Soto situation. I know he's a Met there, but struggling a little bit. So let's throw a little salt on the wounds there just because why not? Let's do that. So a lot of good stuff here. But before we get started, as I always remind you, make sure you subscribe to the audio version podcast of the show, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, whether it's Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you go, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast, subscribe there. And if you're watching right now on YouTube or on television, make sure you subscribe here as well. You want to get all of it. So as I mentioned at the top there, Aaron Judge has been named as the captain for Team America. So I guess call him Captain America, ha ha ha. And of course, the Yankee fans might have a little trepidation because we, remember the situation with the Mets and Edward Diaz. Edward Diaz signing a big contract with the Mets, like it was like 144 million, something like that. And then of course, during that World Baseball Classic, dancing on the mound there, celebrating afterwards, and he ends up breaking his ankle, out for the year, and a disaster for the Mets. Then of course, Yankee fans feel well, something like that similar could happen to Aaron Judge, where obviously playing the game before the season starts, he hurts himself and risks the rest of the Yankee season there. So a lot of Yankee fans, well, at least some Yankee fans might have a little trepidation. Others may like it. I actually think it's a good thing for baseball, and I think it is a right move for Judge. First of all, a couple of reasons. I mean, you just got to look at the reality of the situation. It's Aaron Judge. I mean, he is kind of the face of baseball right now. If you look at him, and you can make the argument maybe Ohtani is as well, but out of the two of them, probably you would say a little bit more Aaron Judge. So how can you have like the guy who's a face of baseball not play for Team America? I mean, it almost has to there. So he almost kind of has no choice. I mean, yeah, ultimately you can say no, but it's something, and it also seems like he wanted to do there. Now you may recall the last time, the 2023 World Baseball Classic, Aaron Judge sat that one out, but it was of course during that time he was negotiating that big contract with the Yankees, which was the right move. Look, that was going to be his big payday. I mean, that was going to be his big cash in for the rest of his life. You can't go out and mess with blow an ankle or break a finger or break a wrist there when you're about to negotiate a contract that'd be worth anywhere from $300 to $400 million there. So for the right reason there, Aaron Judge sat that one out, and it wouldn't be fair for the Yankees too. So let's say they were going to sign him anyways, and they give him a boatload of money. He goes out there and he tears his quad or something, and you lose him for that first season when you just pay the guy $400 million there. So for the right reasons for both sides there, Aaron Judge sat out to 2023, but now he's going forward with the 2026, and it seems something he wants to do there. And again, I know maybe you have a little trepidation about it, but I'm not really bothered by it. Yeah, maybe in the back of my head a little bit, if all things, if we should press a button, he doesn't do that, but I don't think it's terrible. And it's not the same as a pitcher. Let's say, for example, Garrett Cole was healthy and he was going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic. That would be bothered. A pitcher would be more concerning to me than a position player. Position player, I don't think it means as much. It's just sort of them having kind of a separate spring training there, and they're going to be doing spring training activities anyway, regardless, even if he wasn't playing at that time there. So I don't really think it's a big deal. I think he should be fine. I don't think he's going to get hurt. And that's just the way it is. I mean, you can't play that thinking you're going to get hurt like that. It just doesn't work that way for athletes. So I don't think it'll be a big deal. I think it'll be fine. Can a freak accident happen? Yeah, but that could happen anywhere. I mean, that could happen off-season workouts. That could happen him and Paul Goldschmidt, working out together in wintertime batting practice, and someone hits a line drive and whacks him in the head or something. And then you can get injured anytime. You could also get injured in spring training, as we all know. So, look at Garrett Cole. I mean, he shows at spring training, think everything's fine. And also now he needs Tommy John surgery. So you could get injured any time there. So I think it's fine with Aaron Judge. I think it's the right thing. And I think he's sort of mandated to do it. I mean, again, he's the face of baseball right now. He almost has to play for Team USA. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it should be fine. And if you want to go back in the memory bank a little bit, I mean, Jeter played for Team USA, another Yankee captain. He was fine. He didn't get hurt. Mark Teixeira played. He was fine. He didn't get hurt there. So I think it'll be fine. It'll be okay. And I think it's a good thing for baseball. And if you remember the last World Baseball Classic, that was actually ratings-wise a big success there, just to sell the game, to sell the Yankees. So what better way to sell the game to the rest of the world, and maybe just, for the Yankees to sell themselves, is by having Aaron Judge participating in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, he's the biggest star in the game there. How can he not play there? So I think it'd be good for baseball. I'm sure Commissioner Rob Manfred wants it as well, wants him in there as well, just because, again, the notoriety he brings, the attention he brings. And, of course, they'll have the Team USA 99 Judge jersey, which will sell for gazillions of dollars, and they'll sell a bunch of those as well there. So overall, for baseball, for the Yankees, for Aaron Judge, for everyone concerned, I think it's the good thing. It's the right thing. And, yeah, you always worry about injuries, but, again, injuries could happen every time. And the only other situation where you see, where it was appropriate for someone to say no was probably with Mariano Rivera. Remember, I think Team Panama won him. Obviously, he's the big celebrity down there in Panama. He's a god down there because obviously he's pitching for the Yankees. But he refused at that time. But that was a different situation. At that point of his career, he's already in his late 30s. He's a pitcher, which is different than a position player. That start of the season, start of the year, you're ramping your arm up a little bit differently to get yourself used to your season there. Mariano, I'm sure, has his routine, what he wants to do in spring training and start before the start of the season there. So, him refusing the World Baseball Classic makes sense there. Again, at the time, he mentioned that his obligation is to the Yankees. Now, it's a different situation from Judge because, again, Mariano's a pitcher in his late 30s. He's a closer, stuff like that. You got to, prepare yourself for the season a little differently. Participating in the World Baseball Classic at that time, that could have messed him up. Could have messed up his mojo more or less there. So that makes sense. With Aaron Judge, it's a little different. You're a position player. Whether you're in spring training, getting ready for the season, or playing for the World Baseball Classic, it's more or less going to be the same thing there. So, people might say, Mariano turned it down. Why can't Aaron Judge turn it down? Again, but I don't think he has to because he's not it's different as a position player than a pitcher in your late 30s there. So it's a totally different ball game there. And again, Aaron Judge is all in for it. He just mentioned that it bothered him in 2023 watching on TV, and he was able not to participate. So he'll be fine. You always look at the Edward Diaz situation where he was on the mound there and broke his ankle. I mean, can that happen in some freak way? Yeah. But again, I think it'll be okay. And these coaches that are involved, and Andy Pettit, for example, he's going to be involved in coaching for Team USA, and I'm sure other coaches and personnel involved in there. They understand that, yes, these players are representing their country, but they also have a team they're obligated to. They have a lot of money they're obligated to. So I'm sure they know with the workload and the stuff like that and the at-bats and what they need to do. They're not going to overtax these players in a certain way there, knowing that they have a regular season coming up right at the end of that. So they'll be able to handle that well. I think it'll be fine. And again, I just think it'll be really good for baseball and good for the Yankees. Now, early on in the season, Brian Cashman and some Yankee fans might have some buyer's remorse regarding the Devin Williams trade to come bring him in here and ship Nestor Cortez out there. Now, obviously, he's been very bumpy to start the season. Now, he's eased up a little bit, had a clean inning during the Giants series at home there, as well as 2 saves during the Royals series as well there. So maybe he's finally getting on the mend there. But before that point, and probably, I guess, rock bottom for him, at least early in the season, was, of course, the Detroit game, nearly blowing a 4-0 lead there, needing Tim Hill to come out to get that final out there. And again, having Yankee fans kind of wondering, should they go to Luke Weaver as the closer and demote Devin Williams? Even though he was still struggling at the time, I felt it would still be a good move to keep running Williams out there as the closer. Now, I know at that time, before the start of the Royal Series, Devin Williams weren't looking good. I mean, his record was 0-1 with an ERA of 9. Now, obviously, the one loss was in Pittsburgh, which it was the extra innings game. You got the ghost runner. I mean, you could have the greatest closer of all time there. Even Mariano could give up a single and lose a game and stuff like that. So I don't blame him for that one. But, of course, we know some of the blow-ups. The Detroit game was pretty bad. And even opening day, they struggled there. Had a bases loaded situation. He got out of it, but again, nearly blew a lead also there in opening day. But still, for the Yankees, the bigger picture there, I think the right thing is to keep running Williams out there as the closer. Again, that's the formula. That's what, if the Yankees do get there in October and make a deep run, again, the best way for the Yankees is to have a deep bullpen. Go to Luke Weaver for the 7th and 8th, have Devin Williams come out to 9th, and now you just made this a 6th inning game, kind of a la the Yankees back in the heyday with Joe Torre. He would go Stanton, Nelson, Rivera, and even if Rivera goes 2 innings there, sometimes they're making it a 5-inning game there. So I think the best thing for the Yankees, all things considering, is to have Devin Williams as the best version of himself as he can, and he can only do that by him finding it. But by demoting him and not using him for the ninth inning, stuff like that, I don't think it helps the team. I don't think it helps him. I just think it helps him to sort of keep running him out the knife and just hopefully finally it all clicks in. And then again, the Yankees' strength will be that bullpen. You can limit, get a lead by the 6th inning there, and then go to Weaver and Williams to close out a game there. I think that's the formula the Yankees want to use in the postseason. Kind of what the Dodgers did this past World Series and postseason run there. They didn't have the greatest of greatest starting rotations. Obviously, Kershaw was hurt. A lot of the guys were hurt there. They only had like 3 able-bodied starters there, but they had the deep bullpen, and now they're able to use that to carry them the rest of the way. And I think that's what Cashman's kind of replicating there by not only having them and bringing someone like Fernando Cruz, who's been fabulous so far to start the season. Then you mix in a little Weisiger, Jake Cousins comes back, stuff like that there. You have a supreme bullpen where you don't have to worry about having the best of the best starting rotation with kind of with the situation with the Dodgers last season. And again, as mentioned, Williams has gotten a little bit better. Again, 2 saves during the World Series now. Really hard to say what his problem is. I mean, look velocity-wise, he's around 94, 95. Obviously, I don't know too much of the history of Williams. It seems like that's where he needs to be there, but his stuff is just not crisp. He's not getting too many swings and misses. Of course, we all know about the change-up, the airbender. It seems like a lot of opposing hitters are either laying off it, or if they're fouling a piece off of it and staying alive, keeping their bat going there, and he ends up issuing a walk, or they get a single there. So he's just not getting strikeout type stuff right now. So I don't know what the case that is. I don't know if it's just because the season's really early right now. Maybe he'll get a little bit better as the weather gets warmer and he gets more reps in his arm there. I don't know. Possibly maybe look at last season. Obviously, he lost a chunk of last season because of a back injury there, and now he was a little healthy. He was able to pitch it during the later part of the season and the postseason there. But really, again, even really since he's given up that big 3-run home run to Pete Alonso during the postseason there, kind of say he hasn't been the same guy totally. So hard to say. Did that home run get in his head a little bit? Is that pitcher like, remember Mark Waller's after Jim Leyers hit the big 3-run home run, him in the 96 World Series? He was never the same after that. He kind of got in his head. He always had the great stuff. He still threw 100 miles per hour, but he could never be a dominant closer again. So did that sort of thing happen to Devin Williams? I don't know. It's hard to tell. Again, he's a very cool, calm character. Even when he's struggling a little bit, he doesn't get frustrated. You don't see him kicking and screaming, so it's hard to tell emotionally where he is like that there. But again, his stuff is just not crisp yet. So but hopefully by running him out there, and again, now him finding a little success, he had 3 good appearances in a row there. Maybe that's something he could build off of. But again, for fans that early on considering kicking him out right away, going to Luke Weaver, yeah, Weaver could do the job. We all know that. They used him last postseason. I think he'd be fine. But I think, again, Weaver's ability to pitch multiple innings as a weapon, I think it's better for him to be the 7th to 8th inning guy, and then, of course, go to Williams at 9th there. And you can only do that by just keep running Williams there at the 9th. Now, if a large portion of games go by and he's still struggling, then you can make a decision there, kind of what the Yankees did last August with Clay Holmes there. They kept running Clay Holmes out there, but, after you blew 3-4 games in a row like that, all right, you can clearly see the guy just doesn't have it, and you got to yank him out. I don't think Williams is at that point yet, and it gets early in the season, so I just think you just keep running him out there, and hopefully it'll turn around. Seems right now it is a little bit. Stuff is not dominating. He's still getting a lot of hard hit balls against him there, but he's getting a little bit closer. And again, but I think he'll be all right as long as he's not hurt. And the Yankee rotation should get a little shot in the arm there. Now Clarke Schmidt has finally joined the Yankee rotation. Of course, remember his start of the spring training got delayed. He kind of showed up, had the bulky shoulder a little bit. Started throwing some bullpen sessions for a while. Then had to shut him down again. And then restarted some bullpen sessions. But I guess after 2 minor league starts, they feel confident enough to be able to come up to the majors. So he will now officially be in the rotation there. Now, is this as good as having Luis Gil or some big star to come back? No. But I guess it stabilizes a little bit. And again, the Yankees kind of treading water a little bit with the sort of combo of Will Warren and Carlos Carrasco there. Kind of up and down with those 2 guys, not too sure. Clarke Schmidt, obviously, he coming back right now, you're not going to roll him out there. He's not the type of guy who's going to go 7th, 8th innings and, be someone like a Max Fried like that. But at least stabilizes. He's kind of a middle-of-the-road kind of starter right now. Again, I think it would help the Yankee rotation. But I think it's still very thin there because you're still looking at Schmidt, Warren, Carrasco. Man, you look at those 3 there at the back end of your rotation, you're still kind of holding your breath a little bit. It's not really that strong. You still have to, you need a big shot, something like a Luis Gil there. That'll be much improved there because, again, right now, as we mentioned last episode, the really problem with the Yankees right now, their Achilles heel has been mainly the starting pitching there, very thin. Max Fried fine, looks like he's taking the bull by the horns, okay, but after that for the Yankees, a lot of question marks, a lot of underperformances, mainly Rodón, which we'll get into shortly there, and then again, Clarke Schmidt. All right, he's good, he had a good 2024, but well, how's he going to be this kind of second season, be a full-time starter in there? And again, since he didn't have a normal spring training there, and he's a little behind the 8 ball there, might take him a while to ramp up to get to his full ability there, so we don't know what version of Clarke Schmidt we're going to get, at least this early part there. And the match with Will Warren, something like that. Up and down type of guy. Seems like he's only going to give you about 5-6 innings, maybe like that. Might have a good start, bad start, but he's not someone dependable that you feel confident you're going to get a win there. Same thing with Carlos Carrasco. He could throw a good game. He could also give up 4 home runs. You just don't know there. So again, the Yankee starting rotation is going to be very thin there, but at least a little confident that Clarke Schmidt's in there makes it a little bit better. But again, it's still quite thin. Now, the Yankees have been kind of lucky dodging some controversies twice with Marcus Stroman. One of them, of course, at the beginning of the season when he mentioned that he will not go into the bullpen, that he's a starter. And, of course, after that, you lose Garrett Cole to Tommy John surgery. Luis Hill goes down as well with the lat issue. And then, okay, fine. Now you have an opening rotation. He's put Stroman there. You don't need the controversy. Now, it's almost similar with Clarke Schmidt rejoining the rotation again. Yeah, man, you have 6 starters for 5 spots there. What do you do? Now, figure if, Stroman didn't get hurt and have to go to the IL, then maybe either Will Warren or Carrasco might have been sent down to AAA. Probably more Carrasco if I had to guess. But again, now the Yankees have avoided that situation because as you know, Marcus Stroman now on the IL, a 15-day IL with a sore knee. Now this goes to the April 12th start against the Giants. Now that was a game, I don't even know why they played. It was a rainy night there. Mercifully, they called the game in the 6th inning. But I don't even know why they started in the first place. I mean, it was rainy, nasty weather. I know, the whole week, that whole weekend in New York was rainy weather, so you couldn't really risk a doubleheader as well there because you might not get any of the games in. But the Friday game was ridiculous for them to even consider playing that game, and he put Marcus Stroman out there, and he couldn't even get out of the first inning. They had to yank him again with the knee discomfort. Now, I don't think because the weather had anything to do with it. This is something that probably been bothering Stroman because he was not effective at all in spring training. Initial starts before that haven't been impressive at all. Getting whacked around, not giving the Yankees much length as well. Only going like 3 or 4 innings there. So this might be something that been barking at him a while. And the final, I guess maybe this was the pinnacle of it, was the Friday game there. Again, I don't think the weather had anything to do with it. But that's a game that shouldn't have been played in the first place. And mercifully, they called it in the 6th inning anyway. The Yankees was getting smacked around anyway. But of course, the Stroman after the game had an MRI, and they discovered that really no structural damage, but they did give him a cortisone shot there. And we'll just see what happens until he comes back. Obviously, he's going to be on the shelf for a couple of weeks. And in that case, we'll see where we're at. Does Will Warren go down? Does Carlos Carrasco go down? Or does, Clarke Schmidt re-injure himself, his shoulder there? So we don't know right now. But again, the Yankees are able to avoid the drama of the 6 starters for 5 spots now with Stroman on the IL. But when Stroman does come back, that's something they're going to address there. But again, he has not been affected, and he has not made a great case for himself why he deserves to be in the starting rotation. And if over the next 2 weeks, if Carrasco and Will Warren pitch significantly better and good, well, then I don't know what you're going to do with him. He's going to have to go to the bullpen. So far right now, the Yankees have been able to avoid that problem, but again, sooner or later, that might become an issue when Stroman's back healthy, and if you have all the other 5 starters going well there, then Stroman's going to probably have to go to the bullpen. Now, someone who's pitching like he does belong in the bullpen but will never be put there is Carlos Rodón, who right now is not having a good start of the season, and he's got to pitch much better than this. Obviously, Max Fried is now the de facto ace, you would say, that Garrett Cole has gone there. Rodón has, maybe last year he was kind of in the shadows a little bit. He was kind of seen as maybe like a number 2 or number 3 starter there because all the hoopla was going for Cole and Luis Hill, who had a great start of the season, getting Rookie of the Year, and then early on they were even considered maybe he'll be a Cy Young candidate. Well, he came down to earth a little bit, but Rodón, again, he held his own a little bit. He had a decent 2024 there, good bounce back from his miserable 2023 there. But now his 3rd season in the Yankee uniform, not off to a good start there, and he just has got to be much better than this. Now, if you look at the stats right now, at least this moment, he's 1-3 with an ERA of 5.48. I mean, you can't be like the number 2 starter for the New York Yankees and have an ERA well over 5 like that. It's just, you can't even be over 4. Is inexcusable. And it's not that he's lost games. I mean, you could have some bad luck in some situations. Your offense doesn't show up that day, or just one call got you, and you're doing great, but the one call blew the whole game there. I mean, he's given up a lot of runs in big chunks. I mean, you look at the Arizona game, he got bombed. The Detroit game, he got bombed. And again, he was rolling along good in that start against the Giants there. Now, I blame Aaron Boone a little bit for keeping him there a little bit too long. I meant, Young Ho Lee hit a home run or from early in the game. Now he's facing him again with 2 runners on there. The guy just took him deep earlier. Why you keep him in there? I understand lefty on lefty, and you have to have confidence in him, but hangs a slider there, ends up being a 3-run home run, blows the game for himself. The Yankees end up losing that game there. So again, there's three games there where they didn't lose, but he got bombed, gave up big chunks of runs, and that's been his problem. Not only with walks, but also giving up home runs. And he joins a familiar name, of course, J.A. Happ, if you may recall, J.A. Happ or J. Happ, whatever you want to call him there. The two of them now are tied. So for the two of them, their first 50 games as a Yankee, they've both given up 51 home runs. So you have 50 games, you give up 51 home runs. That's just too many home runs, inexcusable. And again, what's killing him also in this situation, the walks, putting runners on before these home runs there, and that's why he's giving up. Not just not losing lose a game, but just giving up big chunks of runs these games. He gives up like 5 earned runs, 6 earned runs, 4 earned runs. This is too many big chunks there. You can't be doing that if you're close to type of I won't say he's an ace type pitcher, but he's pretty maybe one level on that. You can't be doing that, and he's got to be better for the Yankees. Now, again, he's mentioned that, again, the walks himself there. And even Aaron Boone said in the Detroit game, even though he gave up like 6 earned runs, that Aaron Boone felt that his stuff was really good. It's just a couple of bad calls by the umpires kind of unraveled the situation for him. Wherever the excuses may be, I don't know what it is. The velocity seems there. He's got the stuff. It's just, for some reason, it's not translating to being dominant there. Now, again, his first start of the season, the opening day there, he was great. He was fine. It was fabulous. He pitched into the 6th inning. Gave one home run. It was fine there. Getting a lot of strikeouts early on. Again, he looked pumped up. He looked like almost like a mid-season form there. But ever since then, it's been all downhill for him. But again, he's got to be better than this, especially the fact that you don't have Garrett Cole there, and you don't have a Luis Heel at least for another month or so ago. So he's got to be much better with this. I think he will turn it around a little bit. And I don't know if he wants a thicker beard. Maybe a thicker beard will do, or maybe he should shave the beard, because once he's been starting to grow the beard, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. So maybe he should go back to the clean face. I don't know what it is, but Carlos Rodón has to figure it out. And another Yankee player who has to be a better version of himself is Jazz Chisholm Jr. Now, of course, you look at all the home runs right now, and you think, wow, he's having a good season. At least at this point, he's second in baseball, tied with Judge and a bunch of other players for 6 home runs. Where you look but you look at his other stats, and mainly the batting average, 167, which is putrid. You can't be hitting 167. You like the home runs, but now you're starting to get into like Joey Gallo territory, where it's either a home run or nothing. You need singles, you need doubles, you need other stuff. Now, his at-bats are, again, he's too much of a free swinger. I don't really like his at-bats. He doesn't grind out at-bats, if you say, so to speak, a little bit. This season, he's always down on the count. He's always 1-2, 0-2, stuff like that there. So he needs to find better at-bats in work counts, get some walks there, get that batting average up, because you can't be a major league starter and only hitting like 167. That's way under 200 there. You're getting into, again, putrid territory, almost like DJ LeMahieu / Stanton, when Stanton was at his worst type of territory there. Can't have that for Jazz there. So yes, as much as we'd like the home runs there, but again, too many swings and misses. And even if you look at the strikeouts, right now he's tied for 3rd in baseball at 25 strikeouts. Now, you wanted to get a perspective, Judge right now has 17, but as we all know, Judge strikes out a lot, but he also walks a lot and gets a lot of hits as well there, so it makes up for that. For Jazz, it just seems like right now for him it's home run or nothing. You like the home runs, but he's got to get the batting average up, and I think he needs better quality at bats here. Again, he's just too much of a free swinger there. He doesn't really grind out the at bats, look for walks like that. So so hopefully over time he can get that up a little bit, but over the course there, he can't be starting and hitting well below 200. That's just not acceptable. Now we're going to use the latter part of this episode to kind of give you an update on some Yankee rehabbing and coming back in. There's a lot of big names that the Yankees are expecting back, so even though they had a decent start of the season, should get some big reinforcement. One of the names that I mentioned before was Luis Heel. This week we'll start a throwing program. They're not sure whether it's going to be on the 16th or the 17th of April there, but we'll at least starting a throwing program. Then from there, I'm sure he'll probably do some batting practice, stuff like that, and they'll ramp him up a little bit. Probably will need a few starts in the minors there before he can come back there, but much needed right now because the Yankee starting rotation, after Max Fried there, is very questionable, very thin. Luis Heel would be a good shot in the arm. And now moving to the bullpen, we have John Loizaga, of course, coming back from his UCL surgery he had last season. Now, he threw a bullpen session for AA Somerset. That was on April 5th. Now, the coach down there described that as electric, whatever you want to take for that there. And then he threw live batting practice for the Yankees at Yankee Stadium on April 12th there. So really no timetable of when he's actually going to pitch in actual games. You figure he's going to throw in the minors, some minor league games there, but at least working his way back. So you're probably maybe sometime around May looking for him to join the team. Now the whole stuff with electric there, it always reminds me of Byung-Hyun Kim. Remember that Game 5 of the 2000 World Series? The pitching or the bullpen coach described this stuff as electric. He came out there, Posada got an opposite field hit, and Scott Brocious hit a 2-run home run. So electric, And switching to position players, because we have DJ LeMahieu, of course, tweaked his calf there, running to first base during a spring training game there. Well, he did work out with the team in Detroit, and I guess they liked what they saw with him, so they sent him down to the Tampa minor league complex there for what Aaron Boone calls a pretty big build-up. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to basically give him a workload that's similar to what he would experience if he was playing in the spring training. So they kind of give him like an artificial spring training, whatever that may be, with all different workout drills, stuff like that's there. So, is this something that, the Yankees like dyingly need him to come back, immediately? No. I mean, some people feel like right now the Yankees are a little too bit left-handers, and, a lot of teams are throwing their lefty starters at the Yankees, and obviously DJ LeMahieu could be a bat to combat that a little bit. Yeah, but of course, again, we know the last couple seasons haven't been good for him there, so I don't know if he's just going to come back and be the machine again. Probably not. He's probably going to be a utility, part-time type of player there, spot starter, pinch hitter, stuff like that. I'm hoping for the best. Maybe it clicks in with him, and he comes to DJ LeMahieu, we remember, from like 4 or 5 years ago, but it's probably not going to be the case. Again, you'll see probably a little bit of him at third base, a little first base there, but again, he's going to be probably riding the bench a lot. But the player who have an even bigger impact for the Yankees will be Giancarlo Stanton, who's working his way back again, the whole sore elbow situation. As you know, had the 3 injections in the elbow. Finally, I guess after the third one, finally take where it said, it's less painful for him. So he's actually now finally hitting. Now he's hitting off what they call the traject machine. It kind of discusses in previous episodes. It's not just your simple like fastball comes out, trajectories. So if you want like a mimic a curveball, you want to mimic a slider there, this machine could do it. And apparently Stanton's be able to hit this stuff at high velocity pitches there. Now, according to him, he says the pain is still there, but it's manageable. And that's what he described his 2024 season as, playing through this as manageable. So if that's the same situation with him, looks like he could get through with it. At least at this point, looks like he will not need surgery, which obviously would shut him down for the whole year. And I guess he's just going to work his way back, and he's just going to have to play through this season there. Now, we don't know the effectiveness. Obviously he was fabulous in the playoffs there. So if he was playing hurt and still hitting all those big home runs and clutch home runs like that, I guess we'll take that version of Stanton. Of course we would there. But again, we don't know yet what pain level there, and really no timetable when he's actually going to compete in actual games, whether on the minors or the major league level. And once in a while, we don't beat it to death, but we like to peek in on our good friend Juan Soto. Just, you're always curious, like, how are they going to do like that? You don't feel spurned, but you do feel spurned. And you would never root against him to not be performing at his best there. But we'll take a look at it, as his numbers haven't been great to start the season there, and you hear a little bit of rumblings. Now, again, a lot of this had to be expected there, because, again, for Juan Soto, again, at the end of the day, you look at the end of the season, his numbers will be fine. Will be as good as with the Yankees. Is he going to hit 41 home runs and put up the big numbers he did with the Yankees last season? No, you're not going to do that, but it's still going to be a pretty good season. But right now, it seems quite minimal what he's doing. Again, before the Minnesota series, I mean, he was sitting on 2 home runs only for Juan Soto, which is really bizarre for him. Now, he did hit a home run in the first game against Minnesota there, but if I look at his numbers at this point right now, in 17 games, he's only had 15 hits. So it's less than a hit per game there. Hitting .250, which is well below what you normally think for Juan Soto. I remember starting for last season with the Yankees, I mean, it was almost hitting close to 400 to start the season. Now he's at .250 with the Mets. Only 3 home runs and 7 RBIs. So, yeah, these aren't Juan Soto type numbers there. And, of course, the whole discussion is whether, him not having Aaron Judge protecting him in the lineup is part of the reason. I would not say that's the case, because he's got Pete Alonso hitting behind him. And Pete Alonso right now is doing really good. If you look at his numbers, hitting .356 with 5 home runs and 20 RBIs. So he's actually probably hitting better than Judge is right now. Obviously, Pete Alonso does not have the reputation of Aaron Judge, but to say that Juan Soto is failing because Pete Alonso behind him is also failing, so pitchers figure they could throw around Juan Soto or give him the tough pitches to hit and then go after Pete Alonso. That's not the case. Pete Alonso is doing well protecting Juan Soto. It's Juan Soto that's not holding up his end of the bargain. Now, Lindor hitting in front of Soto for the most part hasn't really had a great start of the season as well, but over the long haul, I mean, Lindor is a good player. You would figure, what Alonso's doing right now and what Lindor we know we could do, I think over the long haul, Juan Soto will be fine. And again, he's sitting at 3 home runs. You could have a hot week where you hit 4 home runs in a week and you just make up for that like that. So I don't think it's a big deal. But as I mentioned, when he decided to go with the Mets, we knew this was going to happen. You're just not going to put up the same numbers being in the Yankee lineup and playing at Yankee Stadium that he was going to Citi Field. So fine, he's got his money, he's got his stuff like that, and good. Got Pete Alonso hitting right behind, protecting him in the lineup. I mentioned, before. They had the meeting with Stephen Cohen, and it was regarding about his stats and who was going to protect him in the line. And Manny mentioned that, yeah, I had Manny Machado in San Diego. I had Aaron Judge last season for the Yankees. Who are you going to provide me with? Afterwards, not too long after that, he signed the deal. They did also sign Pete Alonso there, but it looks like Juan Soto was very, very. He wanted to really focus on someone hitting behind him. So he's got no excuses. Alonso's doing great. He isn't. So that's the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the audio podcast version of Section 420 Talkin Yankees, as well as subscribe on YouTube. And if you're watching on TV, do both. Catch you next time.